How dare you overstep, intern?
I was just helping. He needs access.
In the bustling lobby of Harrison Enterprises, a towering tech firm nestled in the heart of downtown Chicago, the air hummed with the quiet efficiency of corporate America. Polished granite floors reflected the glow of overhead lights, and the faint scent of fresh coffee lingered from the executive lounge. It was a place where deals were sealed with handshakes and ambitions climbed the glass elevators like vines on a trellis. But on this crisp autumn morning in 2025, something was about to shatter the facade of polished professionalism, a simple act of decency that would expose hidden fractures and ignite a chain of events no one saw coming. What started as a minor inconvenience at the reception desk would unravel secrets, topple egos, and redefine what it meant to belong in a world built on invisible hierarchies. Would kindness prevail, or would the shadows of prejudice swallow it whole? Emily Carter, a 28-year-old African-American intern with sharp eyes and a quiet resolve, balanced a tray of steaming lattes destined for the boardroom on the 15th floor. She'd been at Harrison Enterprises for just 4 months, long enough to learn the unwritten rules: smile politely, stay invisible, and never disrupt the flow. Hailing from the working-class neighborhoods of Southside Chicago, Emily had clawed her way through night classes at community college while juggling 2 jobs to support her family. Her dream was simply to build a career in corporate communications, but dreams like hers often came with obstacles unseen by those at the top. As she crossed the lobby, her attention snagged on a scene unfolding at the front desk. A well-dressed man in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a briefcase clutched tightly, was gesturing animatedly to the receptionist. His hands moved with purpose, forming shapes in the air that Emily recognized immediately as American Sign Language. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman named Carla with a perpetual frown, leaned back in her chair, shaking her head dismissively. "Sir, I'm afraid I don't understand," she said, her voice laced with impatience, the kind that surfaces when routines are interrupted. "You'll have to write it down or something. We're very busy here." The man's shoulders sagged, a familiar defeat etching lines on his face. He was Samuel Thompson, though no one knew that yet, the founder of the National Accessibility Alliance, a powerhouse organization advocating for inclusive tech solutions across the country. He'd come for a high-stakes meeting, but right now, he was just another barrier in a system that prized efficiency over empathy. Emily hesitated for a split second. Interfering could cost her. Interns weren't supposed to step out of line. But memories of her younger sister, Mia, flooded back. Mia, now 19 and profoundly deaf since birth, had faced this exact dismissal countless times, at schools, doctors' offices, even family gatherings where relatives whispered instead of learning to sign. Emily had spent years mastering ASL, not just for Mia, but to bridge the gaps that society refused to fill. Setting the tray down on a nearby table, she approached with steady steps. "Excuse me." She signed fluidly to Samuel, her hands graceful and precise. "Can I help you with something?" Samuel's eyes widened, a spark of relief breaking through his frustration. "Thank you." He signed back rapidly. "I have an appointment with the CEO about an inclusion initiative. No one here seems to understand." The lobby fell into a hush as onlookers paused, executives glancing up from their phones, security guards shifting uncomfortably. An intern, especially one like Emily, taking charge? It was unheard of. Unbeknownst to Emily, Robert Harrison, the 62-year-old CEO and founder of the company, had just emerged from the private elevator. A self-made man from humble beginnings in rural Illinois, Robert had built Harrison Enterprises into a Fortune 500 giant specializing in software for everyday Americans, from banking apps to smart home systems. His piercing blue eyes, honed from decades of boardroom battles, now fixed on the unfolding drama. He watched silently, intrigued by this young woman's poise amid the awkwardness. But not everyone shared his curiosity. From across the lobby, Margaret Hayes, the 55-year-old head of the sales department, narrowed her eyes. Margaret was a fixture at Harrison, a sharp-dressed veteran with a reputation for ruthless efficiency. She'd risen through the ranks in an era when women in corporate America had to fight twice as hard. But her success had bred a toxic insecurity. Any display of competence from underlings, especially those who didn't fit her narrow view of merit, felt like a personal affront. As Emily continued signing with Samuel, translating his needs to the receptionist, Margaret's lips curled into a sneer. How dare this intern play hero? Margaret began calculating turning this moment into a lesson about hierarchy. Well, isn't this just precious? Margaret's voice sliced through the air like a winter wind off Lake Michigan, drawing every eye in the lobby. She strode forward, her high heels clicking authoritatively on the floor. An intern moonlighting as an interpreter. How quaint. Emily froze, her heart pounding. The crowd thickened, whispers rippling like waves on the Chicago River. Samuel looked between the women, sensing the brewing storm even without hearing the words. Emily quickly signed to Samuel. I'm sorry, sir. It seems I've overstepped. But Margaret wasn't done. Overstepped? That's putting it mildly. Emilius, that your name? For months here, and you're already acting like you run the place. Ambitious, aren't we? The word ambitious dripped with venom, implying something far uglier in the context of Emily's background. Robert Harrison remained in the shadows, his mind racing. He'd lost his son, Alex, 5 years ago in a tragic car accident. Alex had been deaf, and Robert had learned basic ASL in his honor, enough to follow the basics. Watching Emily, he saw echoes of the battles Alex had fought, the quiet dignity in the face of exclusion. But Margaret's cruelty was revealing something darker about his own company, a rot he'd overlooked in his pursuit of profits. Emily took a deep breath, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Miss Hayes, I was only trying to assist. He needed help. Margaret laughed, a sharp bark that echoed off the walls. Help? We have protocols for that. Certified interpreters, not show-offs looking for brownie points. Do you think waving your hands around impresses anyone? The receptionist smirked, relieved the heat was off her. Employees gathered, drawn to the spectacle like commuters rubbernecking a fender bender on the Kennedy Expressway. Something shifted in Emily Thena Steele, forged from years of being underestimated. Growing up in a tight-knit family where her parents worked factory shifts in the old steel mills, she'd learned to document every slight, every barrier. Mia's experiences had taught her that outrage alone wasn't enough. Evidence was the equalizer. I understand your point, Emily said calmly, then turned back to Samuel and signed. It was a pleasure helping you. I hope your meeting goes well. Samuel smiled warmly and signed back. You're a natural communicator. I have a meeting with the CEO on tech accessibility. When Emily voiced this aloud for the group, the air thickened. Margaret blinked, realizing this wasn't some random visitor. Well, she stammered, trying to regain footing. I'm sure Mr. Harrison will provide a proper interpreter. Actually, Robert's deep voice boomed as he stepped forward, commanding the space like a Midwest thunderstorm. I think we found the ideal one right here. The lobby gasped collectively. Margaret paled, wondering how much he'd seen. Emily, join Mr. Thompson and me in the conference room. Ms. Hayes, my office in an hour. We need to discuss leadership. As the elevator doors closed on Emily, Samuel, and Robert, Emily's mind whirled. This wasn't luck. It was the culmination of quiet preparation. What Margaret didn't know was that Emily hadn't learned ASL by chance. Mia's deafness had thrust them into a world of advocacy, facing prejudices from teachers who dismissed her as slow to employers who overlooked her talents. Emily had recorded it all, subtle discriminations that built like layers of Chicago snow. The meeting in Robert's corner office, with its sweeping views of Millennium Park and the glittering lake beyond, lasted nearly 2 hours. Samuel Thompson wasn't just any advocate. He led a multi-million-dollar initiative to make tech inclusive, and Harrison Enterprises was vying for a partnership worth tens of millions. Your signing was flawless, Samuel signed to Emily, with Robert nodding along. But you captured the intent, not just the words. That's invaluable. Robert leaned forward, his voice softening. Emily, I did some quick background check standard for key hires. Your sister Mia, 19, star of her Deaf Academy's debate team, full ride to art school. Your parents pulling double shifts at the auto plant. And you, waitressing nights to cover bills. Emily's carefully guarded vulnerability lay bare, but Robert's eyes held respect, not pity. My son Alex was deaf, he continued, his voice catching. He passed in a crash 5 years back. He taught me ASL basics, but more than that, he showed me how true communication bridges souls. Samuel signed a question that made Emily's cheeks warm. Would you lead our accessibility rollout? Not as an intern, as director of inclusion, with full authority. The offer hit like a bolt. Salary triple her current, her own team, real impact. But Robert added a warning. Margaret will fight back. She's emailed allies before, spreading doubts about quota hires. It's her pattern when threatened. Emily's eyes hardened. Mr. Harrison, Mr. Thompson, you see me as the underdog here. But I've been preparing for this. She revealed her secret. For months, she'd documented Margaret's barbs-emails calling her that diversity pick who needs to stay in line, conversations dismissing people from the wrong side of town. Using a discrete app on her phone, Emily had 52 hours of audio, including Margaret's Spanish-laced chats with vendors, assuming no one understood. Emily spoke fluent Spanish from her multicultural neighborhood, catching every derogatory slip. Why? Robert asked, intrigued. Because when you're overlooked for your skin or background, evidence is your shield, Emily replied. Mia taught me that. She records every biased interaction at school. Outrage fades, proof endures. Samuel clapped approvingly. Do you accept? Robert pressed. Yes, Emily said. But on my terms. Full autonomy to handle Margaret. No interference. Robert's smile was that of a man who'd built an empire on bold moves. Deal. Downstairs, Margaret seethed at her desk, firing off emails to board members. Urgent. Favoritism undermining merit. She'd even tipped a local business journal about racial preferences at Harrison. Little did she know, Emily had anticipated every move. The explosion came the next day in the boardroom, overlooking the bustling loop. Margaret called an emergency meeting, her presentation slick with accusations. Gentleman and lady, she nodded curtly at Emily, now titled director. This promotion reeks of impropriety. From coffee runner to director overnight? It's quota over quality. Robert sat impassively. Based on what, Margaret? He interjected. She faltered. Obvious favoritism. We all know certain hires are for appearances. Gasps rippled. Emily activated her recorder. Let's hear your words on that. Margaret's voice filled the room. These quota interns think they're entitled. Keep them in their place. The board's faces darkened. More clips played racist undertones about South Side hires. Instructions to sabotage Emily's tasks. A spreadsheet flashed. 28 racial slurs. 35 hierarchy jabs. Margaret lunged for the device, but Emily held firm. Context. Here's full context. Samuel entered then, with reporters from the Chicago Business Tribune, the same outlet Margaret had contacted. Hearing about discrimination discussions, we thought it worth documenting for our inclusion report. Margaret's world crumbled. You're fired for cause, Robert declared. Security will escort you. And expect lawsuits. Emily's evidence is ironclad. As Margaret was let out, her shouts echoing like a defeated echo in Wrigley Field, Emily felt no glee, only justice served. But the real coup. Emily had forwarded duplicates to the Tribune. That afternoon's headline. Sales head ousted in discrimination scandal, recordings exposed toxic culture at tech giant. 6 months later, the fallout lingered as a cautionary tale in corporate circles. Margaret, once a power player, sold her Gold Coast condo to fund legal battles, ending up in a quiet suburb of Peoria, crunching numbers at a small firm for minimum wage. Her network vanished, her arrogance exposed. She became a pariah, a case study in MBA programs on ethical failures. Emily, meanwhile, soared. Her inclusion division revamped Harrison software, making apps voice-activated and sign-compatible, boosting revenue by 400